Hello, I'm Jude Scott, and today we're going to paint lavender in watercolour. It's easy to follow steps. You'll be able to paint along with me because I've painted and filmed this in real time. It's only a short video, so we're going to be using, I'm using Holbein Watercolours, and I'm using my brushes. A 2B pencil, I've got my water sponge that I take off the excess water with from the brushes in the bottom right hand side, the lavender that I've picked from the garden, and I'm using an Arches watercolour paper pad here, medium pressed 300 gram paper. So I've masked off half the page because it's only a very small painting today, and it will be quite a quick painting. As I've said, we'll be painting in real time. So I've got my brushes. This one I've used for just putting moisture on the paper quickly. I've got my, this is a new brush I'm using, which I love. It's got very firm bristles and it's a medium calligraphy brush. This one is my large calligraphy brush. Beautiful point, holds tons of water. And then I've got my little fine rigger brush. This is my paint palette. It's a Barry Herniman's. I'm using Cobalt Blue 290, Quinacridone Pink or Opera Pink, Ultramarine and Raw Sienna. All these materials will be listed underneath the video, so if you want to find out more about what I'm using, just scroll down and you'll see all the materials listed there. I've done a drawing using a 2B pencil, and I'm just going to paint in the flowers in a very loose fashion. I don't particularly want to do a botanical drawing. I'd rather this was rather more illustrative, and you can be as creative as you like. So just some light blue, some darker colour, because the paper is a medium pressed. It does still have little bumps on the paper, and you can almost just drag your brush down and you'll get these wonderful skips on the paper, and then you can come back and make it darker where you want, and it will sort of automatically reserve the lights for you, as you can see in that central flower. A little bit more cobalt blue, and I use the Cobalt Blue 290 for Holbein. I find that is a lovely blue, very versatile, and you can use it with lots of other colours to make all sorts of wonderful shades of green, of blue, of purples and mauves. You just keep referring back to your image, or sorry, back to your subject when you're painting, and you can see that the lavender has these little sort of spiky bits of flowers at the edges, and mine are, as I said, quite dark. They have come out darker in the video than they are in real life. So this flower here I'm painting now, I'm just dragging the paint down quickly across the surface of the paper. So you can feel free to stop the video at any time and catch up if you want to do your own painting, paint along with me, because I haven't sped this video up, and as I said before, it is painted in real time. It's filmed in real time. So if you want your painting to be, or your paint pigment to be darker, don't mix black with your paints. Just use the same pigments and put a lot less water in them. So you can get all your different shades of blue from pale to quite dark. I'm just adding a little bit of water now to the tips of the lavender, and that will sort of merge back through the other pigments and give it a lovely watercolour effect. Just now I'm adding some more opera pink to my ultramarine blue, and I want to have some real strength in that intense colour in the darker areas of the flower. Now you can just look back over your painting and see where you think you need some extra pigment added. For the stems, I'm just going to paint them just in water, and then we're going to run the pigment down the stem, and you can get some beautiful effects doing that. You can also connect up to the flower and get the pigment from your stem to actually expand up into the flower, and make it really look like it's part of the flower, not sort of divorced totally from the subject. I'm just connecting up the flowers now with just a soft wash of water, and it's just having the effect of taking that pigment out to the edge of the work without diluting what's already in the flower. And we're going to put some salt on that in a moment and get some texture happening in the background. So there with the vegetation, and for the stems over on the bottom right hand corner I've mixed some ultramarine and some cobalt blue with raw sienna. So again, just make sure that you connect the stems to the base of your flower. And I don't want it to be too stiff. That's why there's a little bit of moisture there, and I've dragged it around so that when you put the leaves down, it's not too definite. So if you have a close look at your subject, you'll see that with lavender, the leaves on this particular one are pointing upwards. So make those leaves go in an upward direction. Don't have them horizontal or hanging down. It won't look like lavender. So that's just adding a little bit more ultramarine to the leaf mixture, just to get some strength into the shadow, the deeper parts of the leaves. It's not all the one tone, so to get the three-dimensional look happening you need at least 3 or 4 tones of paint. I've just added now some titanium white because some of that I want to go more of a creamy green than just a straight transparent watercolour look. So I think so far that's working quite well with the foliage. So for the stem, you can see now I've just mixed a little bit more raw sienna into the mix, and I've put a little bit of burnt sienna into it just to get that strength of tone happening. And because the wood on this plant of lavender was quite old, it was quite a dark browny grey colour. So I think that colour in the stem is working perfectly. Now as it's drying, you'll find that very often the petals or the areas that you've painted in your flower are going lighter. So I'm coming back now and just putting some depth into that, just some darker areas. And the paint is still, paper's still quite wet. That's why it's merging and I'm not getting really sharp edges. Just strengthening those little spiky sections on the outside of the flowers that lavender seems to have. So I probably should be using a large calligraphy brush here, but this little medium-sized one does a pretty good job. So I'm expanding that background pigment out from the stem area, but making sure that the edges are super soft. I don't want to come back and find when this dries that I've got really hard edges out from that area of background. I want it on this particular painting to be very soft. So I'm going to balance that up now with an area at the top of the painting. And again, just softening out the edges of that pigment so that there's a very, very subtle change of tone in the background. And I can't leave just total white background now between the stems, so I'm just encouraging the damp paint on the stems and the leaves just to merge slowly across the paper so that the stems don't look too stark. So now we're going to use some salt just to sprinkle into that background. Just any salt will do. Some people like to use coarse grained salt. I find table salt is quite fine. So it's still not 100% dry, so I'm just going to put some more pick strength in the background areas of the vegetation. Tweak that up just a little bit with a bit more strength. And I'm just freeing it up a little bit, making it look a little bit more casual with just some splashes in the background. You can see there the bottom left hand side, it has bled down into the damp areas of the paint and the paper, so it went a little bit further than I expected. I've also now got some splashes on the background where I don't want them, but you can get that off if you've got a very soft brush. Okay, so here's the finished painting. You can see that the areas of texture in the background have formed with that salt. I just love that look. And I've strengthened the top right hand area with a little bit of more green just by mixing some aureolin yellow with my cobalt. And there we have the finished painting. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Thanks so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to be notified of new videos that I post. Happy painting. Bye for now.